So there is so much MMA on this weekend, and in my opinion, I don't think anyone's going to have the time to watch them all. I have 8 cards in front of me that are not UFC or Bellator. If you want to know about UFC or Bellator, I recommend watching my full card prediction videos because I break down the whole card. In this video, I'm going to go through 8 cards relatively quickly, and I'm just going to point out the fights and the prospects that I think that you should keep your eye on when you watch these cards, or if you're looking over these cards for the results, and keep an eye on and see if these prospects are winning, and maybe you could look at them in the future. But Malcos Costa versus Junior Mello is a good LFA 147 main event. Malcos Costa is coming off a loss. He's a great fighter, 18-5 record. He's pretty young, and you do see him in the corner of quite a few fighters. He was actually in, I believe it was Joanderson Brito's corner when Joanderson Brito last won. Harris Dalanzik as well is a very good fighter on the main card here, taking a little bit of step down in competition after his first loss. Eileen Pereira, that is, you may know Eileen Pereira, or you may know her brother, the current world champion, and Alex Pereira, and she is fighting Helen Peralta, who actually fought in the Ultimate Fighter Season 30, and Helen Peralta is a very interesting fighter. She had a very interesting weigh-in that kind of went viral, where she was completely topless, and she weighed into a bare-knuckle FC fight completely topless, but it should be a fun scrap. I think it's going to take place on the feet for the most part. I think Eileen Pereira is maybe going to get a win, and if she does, it's going to make headlines, so keep an eye out on that one there. Anthony Pettis FC has one prospect, in my opinion, that you should really keep your eye on, and his name is, if I can find him, here we go, Badmatsurian Dorjiev. This guy is very good. He is 6-0. This is his first time fighting in America. He's fought all of his previous fights overseas, and I believe he's actually moved camps. And he's now going to be training in USA and trying to make a run to potentially get into the UFC. And he's had a very decent professional record here. All wins by decision or ground and pound TKO. He lost a couple of times as an amateur to very good competition. Both of these guys have gone on to be undefeated professionals, I believe. I know Hanat Kavalov has for a fact anyway. And now he's gone on. I believe he's going to beat James Dunn. It's a step down in competition from what he's been fighting overseas, and I think he's going to get it done inside the distance. Prospect to keep your eye on here, Bud Matsurian, and also the main event is pretty decent as well. And Nick Higuaia, he's 6-0, taking on a step up in competition and 14-8 opponent. And that's kind of it, really. I think keep your eye out on the main event as well. It should be a banger, but I think the guy to look out for on Anthony Pettis FC3 is definitely Bud Matsurian. I just said his name wrong, I'm sorry. ACA 148 Magomedov versus Alinchiev is going to be another very good fight here. Muslim Magomedov is going to be defending his belt against a pretty tough opponent here in Oleg Alinchiev. He's on a very decent win streak against good competition. Muslim Magomedov is also on an 11-fight win streak because he's undefeated against good competition. And I believe this is at 205 pounds as well, it is. So it should be a very interesting fight. And I think Magomedov is going to win. 99% picking Magomedov. But yeah, Alinchiev has beaten really good competition himself. Leonardo Silva as well is a name that I recognise. Going through the card as well, just really quickly. You've got really good fighters, but I would say that the main event is really the one that you want to keep your eye on. Renato Gomez as well is someone that I've seen on a few people's records. So yeah, anyway, we move on. I think Muslim Magomedov is the prospect to watch on that card. Cage Fury FC. Looking at the main event, Raheem Forrest is the prospect to watch on this card here, in my opinion. AJ Cunningham as well is a name that I recognise and a very good prospect himself. But we look at the main event here, Raheem Forrest 5-0, and he's got good wins on his record, 5-4 win, 5-0 win against Donovan Beard, who fought Bo Nickel, by the way. You might recognise Bo Nickel. Well, Bo Nickel beat Donovan Beard to get into the UFC. And before that, yeah, he's just been winning good fights. But I think that Raheem Forrest is a very good prospect. A win over Donovan Beard, who's a UFC level fighter, definitely means something early on in his career. I think Raheem Forrest wins this one, maybe wins another one, and you see this guy on Dana White's Contender Series next year for sure. Going through, you've got a few decent pro fights and a few amateur pro fights as well, but the prospect to watch, Raheem Forrest and AJ Cunningham as well, definitely someone to keep your eye on. Titan FC 80, the main event's good because Landon Canones is actually a very good fighter, and in my opinion, he's a great prospect and he's very talented as well. He did lose earlier on into his career, but since then he's gone on a decent win streak against not the best competition. Actually, I lied to you. He beat one guy, stepped down in competition, and then he took on 4-0, 4-1, and 9-3, taking on Yemi Oduwole, and I believe that he should be able to win this one here. He's a very good prospect. Maybe with a couple more wins because lightweight is so stacked in the UFC. maybe with a couple more decent wins, you could see this guy on Dana White's Contender Series or signed up to the UFC. And Evelyn Martins as well is a pretty good prospect at 145 pounds as well. She's got a couple wins, not against the best competition in the world, but there's literally no women's featherweights at all. So maybe you could see her win a couple more fights, and you see her in the women's 145 pound division. Josh Mercado as well. This guy had a very promising amateur career, I believe. I think it was like 12-1 or something insane like that. So he's going to be making a second pro fight. I completely lied. 6-3 amateur career. I got it completely confused with someone else. But we move on. CES 71, Garib versus Castillo Jr. Another good fight for tonight. This isn't one that I looked into too much, but Mitch Raposo. You may recognize Mitch Raposo from the Ultimate Fighter Season 30. He also fought on Dana White's Contender Series and got submitted by Jake Hadley, but put up a pretty good fight. He since then beat Jay Viola, who's someone that I recognize on other people's records. But yeah, he didn't really beat the best competition coming up, and it looks like he's getting a little bit of a step up in competition now. And I believe he should be able to beat Flavio Cavalho. Mitch Raposo is probably someone you're going to see in the UFC one day. Maybe he beats Flavio and then beats someone else, and you might see him on Dana White's Contender Series again, because the UFC really does need flyweights. They are somewhat desperate for them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But Mitch Raposo, definitely someone to keep your eye on. And even the main event, you've got Nathan Garib taking on someone with a losing record, but Garib should be a pretty good prospect himself. We move on to Lux Fight League in Mexico. The main event and co-main event are somewhat underwhelming. I feel like the real good fights are lower down in the card. I guess you've got a title fight with someone with a losing record in there. Interesting. But Diego Lopez is pretty good. He lost a couple fights. He's coming off Dana White's Contender Series. Actually, last year he lost a decision to Joe Anderson Brito, who's in the UFC now. Lost a split decision, and now he's bounced back. And he's taken a big step down in competition here. Angel Rodriguez has fought 5 times in the last 7 months, and he's lost all of those times. I feel like this guy's just showing up. He's getting money, and yeah, he's padding up these other guys' records, I guess. We move down. There's a lot of good prospects out of Mexico right now, and Lux Fight League really is the promotion to watch for Mexican prospects, but I would say he's probably the main one to keep your eye on here. Diego Lopez, Luis Ivan Rodriguez is undefeated as well. I recognize the name Irvin Amaya, and I think that should be a good fight too, but I feel like that's kind of like the main fight. Diego Lopez, let's see what he can do against the big step down in competition. We move on. Hex Fight Series 24 taking place just across the ditch over in Australia. Ben Sassoli, I don't know if you recognize this guy, but Ben Sassoli is actually a former UFC fighter. He had a very weird run. He went on Dana White's Contender Series, got eye gouged, got signed anyway. And then he fought Greg Hardy, lost a decision, but it was overturned because Greg Hardy used his inhaler. And then he got knocked out by Marcos Rogério de Lima, and he hasn't fought since. But now he's fighting against this guy called Randall Raymond, who was 36 years old. He's been pretty active, but he hasn't been in the greatest competition in the world. I mean, it might be a really long shot to say that if Randall Raymond maybe wins, you might see him fight in Perth on the UFC card, but I don't think that's a reality. I feel like this is kind of just an a regional Australian fight with not too much on the line, really. I think maybe if Ben Sassoli can get a few wins, maybe you see him in the UFC again. But yeah, I think unfortunately no one on this card will get a call up to the UFC for the UFC 274 card, but I think it should be good. Jamie Spawn versus Jonathan Mikalev is a somewhat good fight, because I know Jamie Spawn had a pretty decent amateur record here. He's gone 2-0 as a professional. He's 28 years old, and he's he went 5-2 as an amateur, which is pretty good. He's fighting Jonathan Mikalev, who also had an amateur record here. What did he have? He went 5-1. So yeah, I don't know too much about the Australian regional scene. I definitely need to look into it. I watched a lot of Eternal MMA, but Hex Fight Series is a pretty decent promotion, and they take fights on in Australia and New Zealand. But let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed anyone. Let me know if this is a good video. Just let me know what you think of this, because I'm going to do this every week. Now I'm going to make a what's on, and then I'm probably going to make like a prospect video of like best prospects from each country, and best prospects to keep your eye on, best prospects in action, maybe something like that every week as well. But I thought I'd just make this video here, let you guys know that there's so much MMA on. If you have UFC Fight Pass, You can't miss it. A lot of these cards are on UFC Fight Pass. The LFA card's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. Anthony Pettis FC will be on there. Cage Fury FC will be on there. Titan FC will be on there. CES 71 will be on there. And Lux Fight League will be on there. ACA, you will have to find that elsewhere. And you also have to find Hex Fight Series, probably on Fight, I believe. But yeah. It should be a good weekend of fights, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the UFC. I'm looking forward to it all, man. I really am. I'm looking forward to the UFC and Bellator. Bellator's going to be a great fight night. I really look forward to that one. But I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate the video. Appreciate the view. And please like the video if you enjoyed it. I just got over 10 minutes there. So somewhat short video. I'll see you in the next one.